Hello viewers, welcome to another edition of Behind the News coming from the stables of The Nation Online TV. I am Ayooluwa Ayobami and I will be your host for today. However, I am not here alone as I have with me my delectable, amazing, fantastic, good-looking and ever-radiating analyst, Mr. Abimbola Olakunle. Mr. Abimbola, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Adjectives.
And happy new month, by the way.
Same to you.
I mean, it's the month of June. Gradually, we are moving towards the other half of the year
mid-year.
and mid-year. And hopefully, we can only but be appreciative of how far we've come in the year and hopeful for more better things to come in coming months. It's nice having you on the show today, Mr. Abimbola.
Same here.
Quickly, let us move on to the business for the day. And I have with me in the studios the Nation newspaper and New Telegraph with me. I'm going to run through the headlines on the front page of this national dailies before we go into the analysis. And I'm going to start with our very own, talking about the widest circulating newspaper, the Nation newspaper. And on the window page, the headline reads, "Bring up alternative policies, Presidency tells critics." Supporters hopeful as Fubara meets Tinubu. President hosts Governor Adeleke, brother Davido. Over to New Telegraph this morning. Gas. Nigeria earned $1.02 billion from improved exports in May. Federal government's $1 trillion economy ambition at risk without policy stability. Obasanjo leadership institute model for Africa, Ghanaian president. Eid Kabir celebration, police ban Elias Sanusi Bayero from Salah Dubar. Fubara visits Tinubu in Lagos. 2027, no automatic ticket for NAS members, says APC. And on the feature story, outstanding arrears, minimum wage, federal workers' rights Tinubu vow to occupy Aso Rock. Man falls from 26-story cocoa house in Ibadan. Proposed alternative to Tinubu's reforms, presidency challenged oppositions. Insecurity, time to fence our borders is now CDS. Mokwa flood, more rains coming, federal government warns states. Fluoride ban can result in tooth decay in kids, study reviews. These are the headlines on the front page of this national dailies, and we'll go straight into the analysis, and we are going to start with the story on the window page of the Nation newspaper with the headline, "Bring up alternative policies, Presidency tells critics." I'm going to run through the lead of this story before we go into the analysis. And the lead of the story reads, "The presidency yesterday challenged opposition leaders and other critics of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to articulate alternative solutions to the nation's problems. It advised them to highlight alternative strategies they would propose in contrast to this administration's extensive list of significant achievements currently benefiting Nigerians in real time." This came from a statement by the special advisor to the president on media and public communications, Mr. Sunday Dare, on behalf of the presidency. Mr. Abimbola, do you think it is even right to start with for critics to just jump into criticism without having an alternative or a way out?
Well, I don't know if it's right or if it's wrong, but it's what it is. By the culture of criticism in Nigeria, that is what it is. Even while those in government now are in opposition, they were guilty of the same thing. So whatever comes around, goes around, comes around. But that's not to say that you should be insulting the what is it, the intelligence now of the people or you are trying to, how do I put it? You are just trying to gain the ignorance of the people by focusing on these emotive things. Normally, if you want to criticize, you assume that you have a better alternative, which is a part of the democratic discourse. So while you act down the government policies as not good enough, I think it's natural that you should, logical really, in fact it's imperative that you should come armed with superior ideas so that the government whose policy you are pulling down will be armed with at least some superior alternatives, which despite the pains, if I can put it that way, or the difficulty or the discomfort or somebody tearing down their policy, at least you offer them something. Which, if you look at it, if it's a superior thing, then they go ahead and try the idea. But you find out that many people, I don't want to say most, because I have not carried out a research to speak authoritatively, but it appears that many, very many, I don't want to say more, but it appears that the general thing is that people just come and tear down stuff and they don't bother to present an alternative, forgetting that the policy they are tearing down are being the product of months of days and nights of sweating. I need to think out of the box to present something. And I think we are going to put the thing down, at least come out with something that people can say, okay, all right, condemn this government policy. I think his policy is a bit on the superior side, government should try. But if you don't give them the alternative, what's a moral imperative there? You are just going to the gallery.
I mean, do you think that we can get to a stage in this country whereby those in the opposition or critics would have a way of, walking onto the government of the day and giving them better alternatives, like having a discussion and be like, okay, this is an alternative, this is my recommendation. Do you think we can ever
we can get there? We can get there. I mean, they said the biggest or largest room in life without the room of improvement. We can get there. Why not? It's a process. But my own bother is that adversarial journalism, adversarial commentary, adversarial reaction is as much, a cornerstone of a democratic evolution as any other thing. It's so better education, better exposure, and the government to doing their bit to improve their lives. I think people can get there. I'll tell you something. When I was much younger, I used to read the newspaper, I don't want to mention the name of the newspaper, but one of the columnists there was so popular. The guy just told it was so popular that I would read, I would feel, yeah, the guy said, yes, bomb them, they told them another. But later I found out that I was just going up poison, because that was not how to write a column, with all due respect to him. Either he was abusing, traducing, insulting the powers that be there, and making up his own opposition as infallible, as if they were not, they wouldn't commit any mistake, and all that. And when you read something like that, it borders on indoctrination, which is not good for anybody. Because if you are doing a democracy, come with your facts. These are contesting views. If thousands of flowers blooming side by side and all that, so you come with your views, you argue your views, your case with a lot of facts and infallible logic. Now you don't have to. Your readers don't have to agree with you. No. And you don't have the attitude that you must brainwash your readers. All you are doing is just pushing your ideas. Now, let the logic and the facts in your ideas speak for you. That's the only way. But when you come with this arrogance that you are all knowing, you are abusing, you are traducing, you are insulting, you are mocking, then you are making a mockery of the whole democratic space where people should be discussing civilized ideas. So it's one of those areas you really need to grow up, because you don't seem to be making much progress on the field. And what you have with the media many of the times, it's just empty noise without message. And what if you are going to feed your people, your readers with noise? Don't have enough noise in the atmosphere. Daffodils are honking without let, and the people are playing blaring music without any regard to your air drums and all that. There's too much noise in the environment already for you to have your own noise without message in newspaper and television. And in the area of social media, that's another thing entirely. It's just a jungle. People will just come with fixated ideas, start pushing out. There's no control, no moderation. They just raw, push it out like that. And nobody gets education more than before they read. But the good thing about all those things is that it's a bubble. X is a bubble. Facebook is a bubble. If you're on them, you feel that everybody is on them. But it's just only a very tiny part of the population reinforcing their knowledge and ignorance or in between. And they never break into the mainstream. That's what is, maybe that was the natural balance. Because if it's more than that, you realize the havoc they will have folks. But again, we start working on these things and they tell people that, look, before you come to the public space, work on your ideas. It has to do with your personal pride. I was doing something on Next the other day. The guy said I was PhD. And I look at the rubbish he put, and I said, I wanted to say, and this one has a PhD. But I said, if you brawl with a madman, they will say you are mad. So I just said, So if you have a suffix of PhD after your name, and what you are putting together, I'm not talking of the grammar now, I'm talking of the idea. You have an idea of somebody who barely enters secondary school, and you can't relate PhD with that sort of shallow idea, then you are making a mockery of yourself. And that's the strategy of the whole thing. So I think people should just get prepared. It's not the government that will be here telling you to get prepared. You too should get prepared, whatever you are going to spew to the environment. So that if you need people to respect, if they don't agree with you, they might even hate you for your view. But they give you something to say, that guy does his own work. And that's the point. If everybody do their own work, then there will be less noise in the environment and everybody will be better still. We are pushing a democratic path to development.
I personally even feel in pursuance of democratic path to development, we need more focus. And just like you just mentioned, there's enough noise already for all sorts of distractions and all of that. Although we can't absolutely take away criticism, but there is constructive criticism. And constructive criticism comes with recommendations and solutions. So perceived solutions, let me put it that way, perceived solutions. So, and I think this is what the opposition should bear at the back of their mind. That okay, because sometimes I read some of the criticisms that some of them drop on their probably on social media and all of that, and I'll just say, okay, sometimes you just read it and you just feel like this statement is born out of pain or something. Because I mean, if you are criticizing that okay, this thing is not good, fine, it's not good. What is the way out? What would have made it better?
When you mention pain plays a lot. I mean, we don't slap a child and I expect the child not to cry. It's a natural thing. Begin at that level. You are not supposed to be somebody reacting in your raw pain. You should have processed your pain.
Yes.
Straighten your thoughts. then put the purified thinking, put it down, because you want your pain to end. When you just shout and bawl and screech, and scream, you are just adding to, it doesn't solve the problem. But if you come to the public and say, okay, wait a minute, I have an idea. You want that problem to be solved. And that's where I come from. Whereas to looking at the opposition, I think we are pushing the thing too far. The culture of the opposition is still very much, how do I put it? It's not arcane. It's lowest common denominator. I can't remember the word I want to use. It's so banal. The banality is shocking, and because it's shocking, you cannot take anything away. Look, in the history of Nigerian opposition in this Fourth Republic, I think the one led by the AD, AC, ACN, APC was the most cerebral and intellectual. I remember when Alhaji Lai Mohammed was opposition spokesman, we would marshal the facts and all that. And I was okay, these guys, I think they are talking a lot of stuff. That's not to say that they themselves they're not, involved in hyperbole, where they call one of your primary that you spice it up and for it to be sweet, even though you are burdened on some sort of lies and falsehoods. But on the average, it was far superior. The people in the opposition now, the PDP and the other guys, they just, I don't know if they don't think their things true. They just come and learn something and they look at what they say, oh, people are suffering, so let's build some sort of deceit in that suffering, and where we deceive the people and they worsen their pain by releases, maybe they read the government and they vote on it. That's not going to help anybody. Because we are brainwashing the people on government policies. Those guys are in power. An election in Nigeria is not won on the election day alone. It's won by the structure you have on that. What structure? You have a minister, for instance. He has his own hub of people. He wants to carry all of them to deliver for his party. And if you have those people all over the country, the election is about 50% won. But those guys are going to prove their people almost all that look, you must win this election for me. And the matter I said they don't have the problem. In their banner report they say I remember there was a time when Rufai was governor in Kaduna State. They held a local government election. In the world, I think in the world or in his local government, the candidate lost, even though they won the general something. And people said, the reporter said that Rufai had been defeated. The last time I checked, Rufai was not a candidate in that election. Here was governor, his party was contested. But he was neither councillor or chairman. Or if he was in there, how would he have lost an election and never participated in it? That's the blind sensationalism that the media prices. And that's the banality in the whole thing. So I think people should respect others' intelligence and report what really is there to report. And if you feel that planting deliberate receipt to sensationalize your story is going to help you in the long run, you are wasting your time. And that's the message the opposition should take away. They should sit down, look at policy choices, criticize the choices, suggest how they could be improved. And if they cannot be improved, suggest an alternative. I'm sure the government knows that your policy is better than it. They will switch and you get the glory. Even though they will lay themselves the spoon in such a way that it's not your idea, but you know it's your idea. And they will say that was my idea, but the government has tried, at least they've changed, but that's my idea, you remind people. That's how to make progress and win over people, not to just be putting lies on empty passion and feel that the sea will gain people. It will not. Most times.
I mean, at the end of the day, everything is towards the growth of the nation.
That's true.
Let's quickly move on to another story. CDS advocates fencing of borders to curb insurgency. Let me run through the lead of this story. Chief of Defense Staff, CDS General Christopher Musa, has advocated the fencing of national borders to curtail the movement of terrorists and other criminals. He said Nigeria needs a comprehensive database of citizens and foreigners to enable it to trap and arrest criminals. I don't know, should we still be talking about having a comprehensive database of citizens and foreigners with the status or age of Nigeria as of today?
Well, it's a process. You never have a complete database. People die and new people are born. To keep on updating, and I'm sure the guy means it in that way. And besides, he is talking from the operational point of view. He's a security person. They are faced with practical problems and solutions. The National Security Advisor, Ribadu, has always said that they are updating their data. When they say update, it suggests that some data were there before. They're adding and subtracting to make so I think that's the manner he's talking about it. So it's a process, but from the way he's talking, the data is still not good enough, and I think it's only natural and logical that the government, the National Security Advisor, of course they're always working in league, should listen and see whatever they can do to update the data. So the data, like I say, is never complete. What is appropriate today, suitable today, might be unsuitable tomorrow because A, B, and Z have entered, while R and S have exited. So you keep on updating the thing from time to time, and I think that was the context in which it meant the thing.
So CBS calling for the fencing of national borders to curb insecurity. What do you have to say about that?
It's not a bad idea. It's just that when I read that, the first thing that came to my mind was Donald Trump wanted to fence the whole of Southern America, Southern United States, and so that I can keep Mexicans and other South American, South American, yeah, South Americans, the continent, out of the United States. He was threatening that he would build the wall, do the first step, and Mexico would pay for it. Yeah, well, we started building some wall, but Mexico never paid a penny for anything. But that's by the way. Now, following the Chief of Defense Staff's suggestion, I don't think it's a bad idea, even though the logistics of it is going to be huge. He was mentioning how many kilometers between Nigeria and Niger Republic, Nigeria and Cameroon, Nigeria and Chad. That's a huge length of space to build the wall. And even if you build the wall, and if you are dealing with this diabolic terrorists, do they have a contingency that desperate terrorists could blow up the wall to have an entry? They could do that. Do you have contingency plans for that? And but generally it's not a bad idea. If you could, you mentioned the case of Afghanistan and Pakistan. During the apex of the Taliban crisis, so it was only that thing that saved Pakistan end of the Soviet. And we are talking of this area that rural, that the death of the rural areas, the real jungle where the state, no matter how broad the hand of the state is, hardly reaches those areas, and a lot of spaces like that about in Nigeria today. So if if part of the security measure is to block them off, you know, at least most of the things, and the leaders cannot block, mask the place with you know, the teeth of the state. I mean, security people and all that. That would be a very practical solution to it. But then it's going to be hurt, the cost is going to be humongous. Then number two, some of these communities, how do I put it now? What is the word again? They are both in Nigeria, or you know, in many of these communities, their issue colonial wars separate nuclear communities. So whereas some people, some Hausas, for instance, you know, they're in Nigeria, you know, the same people, the same stuff, the same people are in the Niger Republic. You buy in Nigeria, you know, same you buy in the Niger Republic. You know, I remember one of these national political conference or something like that, you know, under Jonathan. I remember one of the emirs, was it the CEO of Benue or something Ramide in Adamawa or Benue? So he said, if things go, if the world gets to the worst, we just cross over to people in Cameroon that they will embrace him, you know. So that shows you that the community, despite the borders, you know, are still kith and kins, and there's nothing you can do about it. So how do you now do a war to separate those communities if you are not going to control, truncate centuries of cultural cohesion and all that, you know? So I think it's not a bad idea, but then it has to be creatively executed so that you don't destroy some of these cultural entities. Colonialism is bad enough to have made a nonsense of people's cultures, and if you now put a war, you will further drive them apart. The repercussion could be, it might not be so clear, but in terms of cultural underdevelopment, it's a terrifying thing. So while the thing as a general concept is not bad, it should be creatively executed. That's the only way you can solve it.
But do you think it is achievable?
Of course it's achievable. Yeah, and if you're able to do that, block where you can block. Nigeria is talking of forest rangers now. Have enough of them. By the forest rangers, you know, the states are saying that the federal government should just give them the policy of forest ranger. Let the states recruit their own locals. And most of those forest rangers, most of them will be professional hunters. So while they are in the forest as government employees, they are doubling on their, you know, on their natural, you know, profession or vocation or as hunters. So they are going to have double boost to help fight crime. And if you give them the right equipment, the forest is already their own. They live there, even though they return home for this thing. But when they go on their hunting expedition, they go spend days in the forest. So they can really elbow out those rascals who comes with guns to terrorize the soft part of the population. You know, so if you're able to, if you can block the place, you can block or you block off. The place you cannot, because of cultural resistance, put enough forest rangers and other allied put to there. We might just be getting to the end of this opportunistic criminal who come from the border to foment havoc in Nigeria and run back.
In a bid to curb insurgency and address insecurity issues, it was disclosed that the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Oluyede, has yesterday moved to Benue State to stem killings. do you think his presence in the state is going to affect the security situation of the state?
I don't know. I think it's just symbolic, but it's such symbolism to help to motivate the troops to try harder. Because the psychology of the criminal then so that the chief army staff will come into town. Again, that's a factor. Because the mind is everything. If the state is able to project power, that my number one soldier is coming to town, and the guy has a record of no nonsense soldier and all that, you put a fear of God into him, many of them will leave their guns and run for now, and many of them will stick it out. But the important thing is, beyond the symbolic value, there ought to be a systemic thing, so that whether the chief of army staff is there or not, you have a terrific machine getting the job done. That's the ultimate. But even if you have that, you still have occasional psychological weight that look, the soldier in chief is coming, and they better take your time, behave, or get killed.
Even though the systemic machine, the systemic plan that you mentioned, I was going to ask that, does this mean that he would have to keep visiting states?
No, be fair to this, but they're under a lot of pressure. These are just ways to win the hearts of the people. He doesn't have to visit every state. But that's a cynical way to put it, because look, you need to look at this thing from the whole perspective. We are seated there, eating chicken, blowing grandma on the air condition. But some souls are there, all alone, them with God. And the chief of army staff has to be with them in his head. So they are trying to factor out, they are sorting out a lot of problems. So you might not really be trying to cynically say, okay, so you go to visit every place. That is not, that is very demoralizing. It means you are not looking at it from their own perspective. These are tactics and strategies to tackle a serious problem with all this ramifications. And I think we should give them all the encouragement that I need. Again, the thing has to be said, there ought to be a systemic thing in place to take care of the people. We should say that not in a way to mock their efforts, because you cannot know what they are facing. You are not wearing their shoes. It's just to say that, okay, this will help you to do your job better. And if you're able to communicate with yourself, everybody will be able to be a winner, everybody will be a winner.
Yeah. The goal is to curb insecurity totally in
the
country, and our prayers are with the troops, and we do hope that eventually we see the end of insecurity as a nation. Thank you so much, Mr. Abimbola. We really have to go now. To the critics of the government, just like we earlier said, let criticism be constructive, let there be recommendations, and let there be perceived solutions that you feel are better than the one, and let us learn to also address our grievances in the right channel and to the right persons. I mean, that way it shows how it shows the level of our intelligence and how human that we are. And as citizens of the country, let us also endeavor to keep praying for our troops and keep praying for the nation as well, and keep being hopeful that eventually there is light, there will be light at the end of the tunnel, and we shall see the end of insecurity in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Mr. Abimbola. Until next time, when we shall come your screen again, do well to follow us on all our social media handles, on our YouTube page at The Nation Newspapers, our X handle at The Nation News, our Facebook page at The Nation Nigeria. Do well to follow us on our social media handles. Until next time, when we shall come your screen again, I remain Ayooluwa, Ayobami. Many thanks and bye for now.